Oh my god, Devil May Cry 5 looks so good. Oh, Nero's new arm is so awesome. Oh, and you can ride on it. Oh, they even did a crossover with Star Wars.
I'm cooking. Any special orders?
Let's get this on the table right off the bat. Devil May Cry 5 is amazing. And if you just wanted to know whether or not you should buy it, well, go ahead and drive down to your nearest dealer right now and tell them that Nick sent you, because this shit might as well be crystal meth. Actually, it's like the crystal meth snorted a line of cocaine off a hooker's ass before you injected it right into your veins. That is how sensational Devil May Cry 5 is. But if you need more than a shitty analogy, let me explain. The first thing that you'll notice is just how good it looks. Mwah. This game uses the RE engine that was made for Resident Evil 7, and it puts RE7 to shame. They actually used a different mocap studio for DMC than the one that they used for RE7 and the RE2 remake. And boy howdy does it show! Full body scans of real life models with over 50 cameras don't lie. They even made real life equivalents to the clothes in the game, just so they could scan in the textures. And also cause it's badass. Let me introduce you to real life Dante. Speaking of real life Dante, let's talk about the acting while we're at it. It's all pretty good. Part of that is due to the live action cutscenes that they shot before they mocapped it, which are included in the deluxe edition by the way. Having the scene composition worked out ahead of time I think helps. But the true heroes are the actors themselves. This is Ruben Langdon, and he's responsible for the Dante that we know and love today. He not only voices and mocaps Dante, but apparently he helped localize the cutscenes for Devil May Cry 3, so he is part of Dante's DNA. In fact, his mocap company, Just Cuz, is responsible for doing all of the cutscenes in both Devil May Cry 3 and 4.
Going to a place called Just Cause, where they create digital people and use them to populate their digital worlds.
How's it going?
How are you, sir? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
You create special effects magic here.
Correct. I did all the stunt and body doubles for the main character in the movie, Avatar.
Wow.
This is the playground in the studio to do that. We have 72 cameras, they're motion sensors, and basically they take your movement and they put it into a 3D environment. Then you'll be able to control your own avatar.
And the best part is that he was a stunt actor on motherfucking Power Rangers.
Get lost.
Wait.
So when he was tasked with finding mocap and voice actors for all the other characters, he went straight to Power Rangers. Nero is played by Johnny Young Bosch in both DMC 4 and 5, and is none other than Adam, the second Black Power Ranger. And in case you're wondering, Virgil is also played by a Power Ranger in Devil May Cry 3. Why is this important? Well, it's because Power Rangers just so happen to be familiar with dressing up in skin-tight suits and jumping around like they're in a fucking anime. It's a match made in heaven, which means you have them to thank for Devil May Cry's unique brand of action. No wonder I like them both so much. The other reason it's important is because Power Rangers fucking rules, so you can stop making fun of me for liking Power Rangers, even though I'm an adult and I run a failing YouTube channel and you're so successful and I should come work at your dad's toilet paper company. Fuck you, Jeremy! What was I saying? I don't know. But if you want to see more behind the scenes stuff, go check out Ruben Langdon's YouTube channel. Anyways, game looks great. And at least on PS4 Pro, which is what I played it on, it runs at pretty much rock solid 60 frames a second. But you expected that. Except all my footage is at 30 frames a second. So let's move on to the actual gameplay. Well, it's pretty much perfect. Imagine the best combat you've ever played in an action game, and now I'm sorry to burst your bubble and tell you that Devil May Cry 5's combat is better. I know what you're thinking though. You can't say that because there are so many different types of action games and blah 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 wah wah. Listen, I get it. None of us like having someone tell us that our favorite game is inferior to something else. Maybe you just love Bayonetta, or Yakuza, or Ninja Gaiden, or God of War, or Dante's Inferno. Does anybody actually like Dante's Inferno? It's totally fine to like those games more. I, for one, am a huge fan of the Yakuza series, and I love the combat in those games, but I've played every fucking action game you can think of, and I'm telling you right now, Devil May Cry 5 has the best combat I've ever played in a video game. It has the deepest, most complex, most engaging, most rewarding combat in a video game. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. Why are you calling it an action game? You should be calling it a character action game. Or a stylish action game. Or a crazy action game. Triple beef deluxe toasted sandwich. You know what? You can call it whatever the hell you want. But I don't care. You can't separate it into a different genre just because you don't want your favorite games to have to compete with it. That's not how it works. But let me explain how the game works so that you understand where I'm coming from. Devil May Cry 3 and onward were directed by this lovely man who followed me on Twitter for some reason, Hideaki Itsuno. He's worked on Street Fighter 3, Darkstalkers, Power Stone, and my personal favorite Capcom fighting game, Rival Schools. Team Batsu! The reason this is important is because Devil May Cry works just like a fighting game, and that's not an accident. In a fighting game, every character has a series of moves that they can do. All of these moves are pulled off by inputting a command. Forward punch does this, quarter circle kick does this, so on and so forth. But what about all those people who can juggle me and do these crazy combos and shit? Well, in order to pull off those crazy combos and shit, you have to use these single moves as building blocks. And if you practice enough, you can figure out how to use different single moves in succession to pull off a combo. And the best part about it is that there's no one way to do it. Each person will make their own combos by stringing together different moves. What I just described is the combat in Devil May Cry. It's not about mashing square to do a preset combo. It's not about quick time events or having a higher level. It's about your ability to string together the moves that each character has. And all the moves... There was the obligatory burp. Oh, I wrote it into the script this time. What? And the moves all have different commands, just like a fighting game. But what does this mean for the game? Well, it means that the sky's the goddamn limit. You can make combos to your heart's content, and in fact, there are entire communities around making fucking sexy style combos in Devil May Cry. And this brings us to Devil May Cry 5, where the depth is at a new fucking level, and the game gives you more tools than ever to make your own combos. And of course, that's what the style system is for. It goes up when you use a move that you haven't used in a while, and that's it. It's pretty simple, but it works perfectly. It's immediately clear how it works, and it rewards experimentation. Plus, there's 3 characters to play as. So let's talk about those characters. First off, there's Nero. He's basically the poster boy, and for good reason. He's the easiest to understand. He only has one sword and one gun. That means the triangle and square buttons are always going to be attached to those weapons, respectively. The neat thing about his sword is that he can do what's called an exceed, which charges up the sword and either makes it do more damage or makes it do different attacks depending on what you do. You can charge it by tapping the R2 button or fully charge it by pressing the button at the correct time after an attack. So theoretically, you can charge it after every attack you do if your timing is good enough. However, Nero's real cool shit is his new robot arm. Nero's life as a teenage robot. He's got a bunch of arms to use that all have different abilities that are mapped to the circle button. So you can set up a clip of arms so that you always have the right arm for the job. The only catch is that you can't select which one you want to use on the fly. You can only destroy the one that you're currently using to move on to the next one in your clip. Now this might sound shitty because it is, but it's not really a bother. I never really felt like I was unable to perform. Did you get what I'm saying? But that's pretty much it for Nero. And as far as Dante goes, he's pretty much exactly how he was in Devil May Cry 4. You can change styles and weapons on the fly, and because of that, he's by far the most complex and rewarding character to use. But I don't really need to explain to you how Dante works. Now, Dante and Nero do get more abilities that pretty drastically change how they play, but I ain't gonna tell you about them because damn spoilers. So then there's V. Now V is fucking weird. Instead of fighting directly with the enemy, you can use familiars to fight for you. Shadow is the big cat and he is used by pressing the triangle button, and Griffin is the bird and he's used by pressing the square button. This means that V is basically the same as Dante and Nero. Triangle is melee, square is range. The only difference is that you're not in the battle. You're more so trying to stay out of the fight. However, the familiars can't finish off the enemy. You have to do that yourself by pressing the circle button, so it forces you to get up and close with your enemy. Now, on paper, this doesn't seem that different from the other characters, but there's an issue here. I've heard people say that it's like the game is playing itself, but that's not the right way to describe it. It's not playing itself. The problem is that it's not engaging. The reason for this is pretty simple. It's because the enemies usually don't target you. They target your familiars. So you don't really have to do much dodging. The familiars do have health bars, and they can get incapacitated, but it doesn't do enough to make you care. Just mash square and triangle, and you're good. What is this, Dante's Inferno? This is the antithesis of what Devil May Cry is all about. And that's the problem with V. He's still fun to play as, but relative to Nero and especially Dante, it gets boring. You just want to stop playing as V so you can play as someone else. This is why he only has like 3 or 4 mandatory missions in the game. And then during the missions where you get to choose your character, you don't want to choose V. Oh yeah, how about that multiplayer shit? So this game has multiplayer, but real talk, it doesn't. So take for instance mission 3 and 4. In mission 3, you play as Nero, and in mission 4, you play as V. But, see, here's the thing, they're going through the same area. That means if you're playing as Nero, you'll see someone else going through V's part of the mission. And if you're playing as V, you'll see someone else going through Nero's part of the mission. This can either be a real person, or a real person's ghost data, or a ghost data from the DMC dev team. Sounds good, right? No, it's not good. Because most of the time, it's just someone's ghost data. And then they randomly disappear and you're left with no one. And it sucks, because it's a neat idea, but it just doesn't work. And then in mission 7, you get to choose between Nero or V. And then they go through the mission alongside each other. Not together, but alongside each other. But if it doesn't connect you with someone else, it loses its value. Because then, you know, Nero will talk to V, but no one's fucking there.
You can follow if you want, but I'm going ahead.
Then there's mission 13, where you choose out of all 3 of them, and it's the only time in the game when you actually play with another person, but it still doesn't work. When I played the mission as V, I would get an enemy into a state where I could finish them, and then someone else would just fly in and steal my kill. If the game was built around it, you know, maybe have a global style meter, maybe have some co-op moves, then I would be on board. But as it is, it's just kinda lame. However, it's not that big of a deal. Now, there are 3 things that I want to address altogether. Difficulty, auto battle, and red orbs. I'll touch on the red orbs first because it's easy. Yes, you can buy red orbs. No, you don't need to. Outside of a fancy taunt for each character, the game is not grindy, and you'll have plenty of red orbs to go around by just playing the damn game. I mean, we're talking 20, 30,000 per mission. Now, yes, it's true. The game's pretty easy. Right off the bat, you can choose between easy or normal. The game is significantly easier or normal than any other Devil May Cry. However, I've heard some people suggest that you should have access to hard from the start, but I don't agree with that. The game has 5 difficulties. Human, which is easy. Devil Hunter, which is normal. Son of Sparta, which is hard. Dante Must Die, which is like very hard. Heaven or Hell, where you and every enemy, including bosses, die in 1 hit. And Hell in Hell, where you still die in 1 hit but enemies don't. For every difficulty you beat the game on, you will unlock the next one in line. This is the way it is in every Devil May Cry. It has also always been a debate. The reason is because in order to unlock all the difficulties, you have to go through the game a billion different times. Now, Devil May Cry is always a game that you should play through at least twice. But come on, 5 times? I admit it's a little ridiculous. However, you can't just have hard unlocked right away. The reason is because of how Devil May Cry handles difficulty. It does it in the way you're fucking supposed to. Harder difficulties don't just have you take more damage and have enemies take less damage. It arranges the enemy placement, putting harder enemies early on. It puts more of them in, and it makes them more aggressive, sometimes with new moves. This means most people would not be ready for the mode on their first time through, and it would destroy the flow of your first time. However, there is another complaint: auto mode. Now, auto mode is not anything new, but in the past, it's either been attached to easy mode or a setting you have to change outside of gameplay. In this game, you just hold down the right stick and it'll turn on. Now, auto mode pretty much does just play itself. The idea from the devs is that it's supposed to give you an idea of what kinds of things you can pull off, and it definitely can be used that way, but in order to test its effectiveness, I went through the entire game on Son of Sparta with auto mode on. And boy howdy, it's a little too useful. The penalty is supposed to be that it adds a negative multiplier to your score at the end of the mission, but on mission 4 with V, I still got an S rank. And also I was playing with one hand so I could play Temple Run. Not only was it way too fucking easy, but it was boring. And this is kind of a problem. I think there just needs to be a bigger penalty, or maybe limit it to easy mode, is what I thought until I got to mission 10. And then I figured out that this game has a mission rating lower than B. Jesus Christ. It has no idea how to play as Dante. He's just too complicated. I was better off just playing as Dante myself without auto mode. And that's the answer. Just make it less effective, because using it with Dante was fucking painful. It made me not want to use auto mode. And that's the way it should be. Auto mode is pretty much a crutch with V and Nero. I mean, with Nero, it'll auto charge your gun, do automatic exceeds after like half of your attacks, and wire snatch enemies without even having to interface with the circle button. And that's in addition to stringing together combos and shit for you. So I recommend that you just ignore auto mode, even if you're terrible at the game, because it'll ruin your experience. That's no fun. And that's what this is all about. Fun. And let me tell you, they might as well change the name to Devil May Fun. Devil May Be Fun. Is fun? Devil Fun Cry. Fuck! You get the point. Devil May Cry 5 is fun. F is for fucking kill all the demons. Which is what makes the game so great. I know it sounds like I'm harping on the game, but in the bigger picture, all of the complaints I have are irrelevant because I had a blast all 3 times I played through the game. In fact, let me just rapid fire through a bunch of shit I loved. The gallery fucking rules because it has every enemy, boss, character, weapon, and item to look at in detail, and it'll take pictures of enemies that you defeat to put in the gallery. The ability to revive with red orbs instead of buying healing items is so much more balanced. The deluxe edition stuff is totally worth it because it gives you the live action cutscenes, music from past games, and the fucking Mega Buster! The music in this game is amazing, by the way. The ability to turn off abilities that you've bought adds so much to the way you can play the game. The Void is an amazing place to just practice and mess around with all the mechanics. The bosses are all super fun and badass. The obligatory boss rush is fucking sick because you get to fight bosses as V when you normally fought them as other characters. The final boss may be the best I've ever experienced in a video game. The history of DMC video on the main menu is great for new players. When you blow these things up, you actually get covered in blood. And God, this game is just so much fucking fun. If it isn't obvious at this point, I love this game. And I have no reservations in saying that this is, without a doubt, the best Devil May Cry. But it's so good. I think it's the best action game. Period. It'll probably be my favorite game of 2019. And I don't think I'm alone in thinking any of these things. It really is that good. And at this point, you just need to go buy it to see for yourself. In my opinion, you are doing yourself a disservice by not playing the game. So go fucking play it. Or we can't be friends. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe if you're new here. Go check out the Twitter. I've been tweeting more about shit over there, so I'm more active. And as well as our Patreon and all of that good stuff. Laugh a lot, eat a lot, have fun doing it, and you will see me in the next one.